In this recording, we'll discuss nerve anatomy and physiology. So your nerves. Okay. This is going to be very similar to muscles. Okay, so some of these words are going to sound somewhat familiar. The nerves that we keep talking about. If we're talking about a nerve, then we are, first of all, implying that we are talking about something in the peripheral nervous system. Okay, so the nerves that we've been talking about, cranial nerves, spinal nerves, all that good stuff, there is a certain composition within those nerves that you are going to find. Doesn't matter if it's, cranial nerve number 1, spinal nerve number T3. Doesn't matter. Okay. You are going to find this arrangement. You've got an epineurium, a fascicle, a perineurium, and an endoneurium. And again, I'm really hoping that these sound somewhat familiar because this is basically how your muscles were bundled together, your muscle fibers. Okay, so your endoneurium is a tough fibrous sheath, okay, of an individual nerve fiber. Okay, we call this a neuron. Ooh, okay, it's one individual nerve cell. Okay, so your endoneurium is comparable to your endomysium. Okay, that surrounded one muscle fiber. And then we take a few of those and we wrap them in perineurium to create a fascicle. Okay, so the fascicle is just a bundle of nerve fibers. So again, individual nerves have an endoneurium. Okay, and then we bunch them together and we create these fascicles, and then we take a bunch of fascicles and we wrap it in an epineurium, which is another tough nerve sheath. Okay, and then that is, for example, a spinal nerve. And you'll see that we do have blood vessels in here as well. Okay, these are living cells. They got to eat. We need to get oxygen and nutrients to them, just like anything else. Okay, so that's what's inside a nerve. Okay, now again, when we said nerve, we said we were referring to the peripheral nervous system, anything outside the central nervous system. You might also hear the term ganglia, and in fact, you are going to hear the term ganglia in a different, under a different topic. Okay, but this is the same thing. Okay, nerves, ganglia, we're in the peripheral nervous system. Now, if we're in the central nervous system, okay, we call them tracts instead. I don't know why we had to name them different, y'all. I don't know. I didn't get to make the rules, okay? But you have probably noticed these on some of the pictures or in lab if you're doing lab. You've got your olfactory tract, okay? You've got your optic tract. These are going to carry sensory information like smell or vision to the appropriate cerebellar or cerebrum lobe for processing. Okay, so tracts are in your central nervous system, nerves or ganglia are in your peripheral nervous system. Now, keep in mind we do have 3 functional classifications of these nerves. You've got afferent or sensory neurons that send sensory information to your central nervous system. You've got efferent or motor neurons that send motor input away from the central nervous system. And then you have mixed nerves like your spinal nerves, for example, that contain both afferent and efferent fibers, or both sensory and motor fibers. Okay, so spinal nerves themselves, we have looked at pictures previously of the spinal cord. We talked about the dorsal and the ventral roots, things like that. And I showed you that the spinal nerve itself was where the dorsal and the ventral root, they basically fuse together. Well, spinal nerves are actually very short. Okay, so this tiny little region right here, that's it, that's all you get. That's a spinal nerve, because you will then almost immediately, because these are so short, you will branch, okay, into rami. You have a dorsal ramus and a ventral ramus. Okay, now keep in mind your spinal nerves, they are mixed nerves, so we're carrying both sensory and motor neurons within this location. These rami, these branches, are also going to carry sensory and motor neurons. Now, it sounds complicated, but this is going to make a lot of sense. dorsal rami, or your dorsal ramus. Where is your dorsal region? Dorsal's in the back. Okay, we are going to have sensory and motor neurons running to the backside of your body. We need to be able to feel and move the backside of your body. You also have a ventral ramus that carries these sensory and motor neurons to the front side of your body, because we also need to be able to feel and move the front side of our body. Okay, so these rami allow us to innervate your whole body, front to back. Okay, so that's all that's really going on here. It sounds complicated, lots of new sciencey words, but all we're really saying is your spinal nerves are very short. Okay, they almost immediately branch, and they go front and back, so we can innervate both sensory and motor, the front and the back of your body, and everywhere in between. Okay, because they wrap around. Look how long this is. Boop, all the way to your sternum in the front. Okay, and then your dorsal ramus would go all the way around the back side of your body. Okay, we're leaving no body part uninnervated. We got to feel and be able to move everything. All right, dermatomes. Okay, these are kind of interesting. These are regions of the skin that are served by a single cutaneous spinal nerve that supplies that particular region with somatic sensation. Okay, keep in mind, somatic sensation is kind of what it sounds like. You're being able to feel your body. Okay, this can be useful for determining where you have spinal nerve damage. Okay, there are some regions of overlap. Okay, so if you kind of look at this a little bit more in detail, there is a little bit of overlap here, but this helps you again try to figure out, if we can't feel really anything below this region, then we probably have damaged our T8 spinal nerve, so forth and so on. Side note, interesting side note, the shingles and or the chicken pox, because it's really the same virus, it's the varicella virus. Come back. This virus likes to travel along dermatomes and create rashes, okay, specifically along these dermatomes, because the virus itself really likes to cause nerve inflammation, and we see that. We see the physical response as a rash on our body, but you can see this is almost a perfect line, and if you kind of envision this guy, these couple of regions here, it's almost perfect. Okay. All right. Now, referred pain. Okay. Now, there are interesting facts. This is a phenomenon whereby pain that originates in an organ is felt as cutaneous pain. So, in like your skin. Okay. So, an organ hurts, but you feel it in your skin. Okay. This happens because many of your spinal nerves carry both somatic and visceral neurons. Okay, so the visceral sensations go along the same pathways as the somatic ones. So kind of basically the signals are kind of getting crossed. The referred pain is generally located along a dermatome for a particular nerve. Okay, and that's a little harder to tell here because of the way that these are shaded. Okay, but some of these, so like this area, for example, this little area, so like if your esophagus hurts, you can see this is pretty much a straight dermatome. Okay, so some of these you are probably already familiar with. For example, your heart. One of the classic symptoms of a heart attack is left arm pain, and look at this. This goes all the way down your left arm, not your right arm. Not your right arm, goes down your left arm. Okay, that's a super common symptom of a heart attack. Also, in your throat, a lot of people will think they're suffering from really bad indigestion or heartburn if they're having a heart attack. Okay. And then a couple of these, again, are pretty common. So, for example, kidneys. Your kidneys are a little higher up here in your back. But if you suffer from perhaps kidney stones, it's very common for your lower back to really, really hurt. Okay. Now, some of these, okay, you probably wouldn't necessarily think of off the top of your head, okay, just from everyday living. For example, your liver and your gallbladder. Your liver and your gallbladder are not located in your neck and your shoulder. Okay, so again, this one kind of goes back to some of these dermatomes and things like that. So anyways, just kind of FYI, kind of interesting facts. All right, spinal nerves. We've mentioned we have, 31 pairs of spinal nerves. We've mentioned that they're mixed nerves. They carry both motor and sensory neurons. We've talked about rami now. Okay, the splitting from the spinal nerve so we can innervate both the front and the back sides of the body. Well, in a couple of specific regions, for example, cervical region, lumbar regions, sacral regions, these spinal nerves basically form these networks, and they're called nerve plexuses. And they do this so if you damage one small portion of a particular nerve, the rest of these nerves can kind of accommodate for that damage so you don't lose a whole lot of function. And so you have 5 of these that we're going to mention real quick. Your cervical plexus, right? Cervical would be your neck region. The most important one that we have here, arguably, would be your phrenic nerve, because your phrenic nerve stimulates your diaphragm muscle, which is your main breathing muscle. If you damage your phrenic nerve, you can't move your diaphragm, which means you can no longer breathe on your own. You all know what happens if you can't breathe, if you do not seek immediate medical intervention. Okay, do not damage your phrenic nerve, thank you. Your brachial plexus, this does your hand and your arm all the way down to your hand. We have 5 major peripheral nerves. Your musculocutaneous nerve, which does the skeletal muscles and the skin. You got your median nerve, ulnar, radial, and axillary nerves as well. Okay, these are kind of just some of the main ones involved in your brachial plexus. Your lumbar plexus does your leg down to your foot. This includes your femoral nerve, okay, which runs on the front, the anterior region of your leg. Your sacral plexus does the back side of your leg, basically. It runs from your buttocks down the back of your leg to your foot. This includes your sciatic nerve, which is the longest nerve that you have in your body. It runs all the way down the back side of your leg. It's very common to have sciatica or sciatic nerve pain from putting extra pressure on this nerve. It makes your leg tingle and kind of hurt. So the lumbar plexus does basically the front side of your leg. Sacral plexus basically does the back side of your leg. And then your solar plexus does the internal organs. Okay, it kind of lives behind the stomach. This includes your splanchnic nerves and part of the vagus nerve. Okay, so this innervates organs like your heart, your lungs, pretty much all of your digestive organs, things like that. And this is just kind of what it looks like. So you got your big old brain. Here's your cervical plexus. Here's our interconnected web here. Your brachial plexus, this would go to your arm. And then we don't really have anything in the middle on the back. This just doesn't show your solar plexus, and that's okay. And then our lumbar plexus and our sacral plexus, so this would wrap around to the front of the leg, and the sacral would run down the back of the leg.